Welcome to a new segment here at Haunted Road Media. Now, this may be an extension of my video blog, or it may just be a new, entirely different segment altogether. And what it is a top 11. And today I'm doing top 11 ghost stories that I tell. Why a top 11 and not a top 10? Well, because 11 is one more than 10. Some of you may understand that reference, and I hope you do. Now, if you like this video, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up below. Let me know that you really do like it. Also, leave some comments and feedback below. If there's another top 11 you would like me to cover, it could be anything, doesn't necessarily have to be the paranormal. Go ahead and leave that comment as well. Plenty of ways to contact me, Facebook, Twitter, all of that. If this is the first time that you are viewing this channel, please go ahead and subscribe to it as well. We would really appreciate that. Now, on to top 11 ghost stories that I tell. Okay, so top 11 ghost stories. This covers a variety of different venues. Could be interviews, conventions, conversations I have with people. You know, basically the whole gamut. And taking all that into account, and these are what I think are the 11 top places that I usually talk about. If you go back and listen to any interviews or anything that I've done in the past, you will probably recognize these places in these stories. So, number 11 is the 101 Ranch. That's near Ponca City in Oklahoma. I'll usually talk about how there's no power at the location at all whatsoever, but yet we still get a lot of EMF activations in the basement of the Great White House. Sometimes I tell some of the history of the Miller family, the Great Wild West shows that they used to do there, how they even went as far as to buy a Mexican army and mount a Gatling gun on top of one of the silos. One of the nights that we were there, had a great electrical storm, and after that the activity really picked up. We're getting tons of meter activations, shadows all over the place, and we even heard the beating of drums coming from the tree line near the river, and a bunch of lights and crazy things going on within the trees themselves. Number 10, Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. Our team, Society of the Haunted, had the distinct pleasure of being the final team to actually investigate Fort Chaffee. This is the old field medical hospital facility that, if you saw it on Ghost Adventures, they talked about it being like a labyrinth, really like the game Doom, all the different hallways. And unfortunately, it burned down about a month after we were there, maybe 3 weeks, something like that, after our last investigation there. One of my Paranormal Roads videos was on Fort Chaffee. That's going to be re-released by Haunted Road Media here pretty soon. Also, if you saw the Paranormal Roads, or Haunted Roads to the Paranormal video that basically is a channel trailer for Haunted Road Media, you will see some clips of the smoke and things like that from when it burned down. We were actually having another investigation in Arkansas that particular weekend, and we stopped by just to catch a little footage of the ruins and all of that, and the fire actually kicked back up not long after we got there. Number 9, Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. This is a fantastically haunted location. I had a book signing there a few years ago. My buddy Copperhead Greg Graham set that up. Really appreciate that. And basically spent the night investigating with him. There was a group that he was leading as well that we walked through, but there was a lot of great activity that happened there. The one story that I tell a lot from that is about how it's toward the end of the night, and we had, basically it was a lighted ball that rolled itself out of the room and started bouncing down the hall. The group of people that had been down the hall thought we threw it at them, but no, it basically just rolled out of the room on its own and just took off. But there was a lot of great stuff that happened that night that I've talked about. Number 8, the shadow person in my bedroom as a child. I usually get the question about my first experiences and how I got into the paranormal and all of that, and usually I end up kicking that off with a story about the shadow person in my room. And if you haven't seen it yet, check out the shadow person video. It's my very first video blog, and I talk about how I woke up in the middle of the night and it was there in my room and came up to me, crossed my arms, darted down the hall. I get into sleep paralysis a little bit there in that discussion, just because it's very common for people to use that as, I don't necessarily want to say an excuse, because sleep paralysis is legitimate, but there's also legitimately shadow people as well. And some people kind of mix the two, or confuse the two, or just basically try to say any shadow person that you experience when you wake up in the middle of the night is sleep paralysis, and it's not. And I talk about that difference in that video blog. Number 7 is another experience that I had when I was young. It was an experience that I had in high school. I don't really have a title for it, but basically I have talked a number of times about my first little paranormal investigation. And basically that was myself and a friend. We were at a friend's house, and she was talking about how she thought her house was haunted. Anytime that she would hang things on the wall in her room, it would fall, that there's a cemetery in the backyard. So we went up there, checked things out. And the friend that was with me was sensitive to a lot of different things, and he started touching the wall, got really heated and red, started sweating a lot, things like that. So he had a really adverse reaction to this wall, and then he started checking out other walls within the house. Number 6, Black Bear. Now, this was the Church of Darkness episode that was on my ghost story that I filmed about 2.5 years ago and aired October 2012. And there are so many different experiences that I've had there at that location, between the crawler that's there, things going on in the cemeteries, fantastic EVPs that we've heard there, even reviewing footage after the episode aired. We've caught balls of light within the video, and basically the first moment I showed up at the location, I walk in, taking pictures, and boom, one of the very first pictures I took was this fantastic ball of light right above the pulpit area. Number 5, Skirvin Hotel. Now, I don't usually tell this one so much as a ghost story, although there are certainly ghosts there, and there's a lot of hauntings that happen at the location. And one of the things that I like to talk about is how the New York Knicks got scared out of there one night and blamed their loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder that night based on the ghosts of the Skirvin Hotel. But what I use the Skirvin Hotel story as is to show how legends evolve and kind of describe how, a current ghost story that, you wonder, where did that come from? Because I'm not finding any facts. And kind of describe how those things originate. And where that comes into play is Effie, who is said to be a chambermaid at the hotel, supposedly jumped off the top story with her baby in her hand and things like that. And the facts of, chambermaid, baby, all of that don't correlate with any actual facts that surround the hotel. But if you look at other facts of the hotel and different pieces of things that happen there throughout the years, you can put it together to create her story, along with the hauntings that happen there, because there are reports of, the maid card coming down the hall and there's no maid card, babies crying, that are, phantom cries, chambermaids that, apparitions of chambermaids that appear in the hotel rooms and things like that. So it's kind of all come together, and I talk about that a lot with my history in the paranormal and how they relate to each other. Which brings me into my next story of Airy on a Calvert at the Mount Airy Plantation. And that's in near Upper Marlboro, Maryland. And it's a really sad tale. And basically what happened was, when I was researching Ghosts of Maryland, I found this one little liner on a website somewhere about how there was this distraught girl who's forlorn, something like that, who was depressed over, the loss of her love, just one little one-liner, and she's supposed to haunt there. So as I kept researching the house to find out the history behind the location, I came across the story of Airy on a Calvert. And so I used this story, not so much the ghost aspect of it, but the history and personal tale, because I think within the industry of the paranormal, I think the personal tales kind of get lost in all of it, in that, people are so transfixed on the activity that happens, and do we see a shadow person, do we see something move, do we hear all these different noises and things like that. The actual personal tales of the people that actually once lived there get lost. So I try to to show that, hey, these are real people. They have real lives. You know, she had something, you know, really horrible happen to her, and, you know, now she's still stuck in this state of depression, you know, hundreds of years later. So let's have a little respect there. Number 3, Monster in the Closet. This was the episode that was on The Haunted. The tale that I tell a lot out of that is, you know, people ask me about the filming and, you know, how true the actual networks and everything stay to the story of what happened there. And, you know, people ask about the footage and things like that. And all of the footage was real. I don't like the way they ordered it, and I don't like some of the things that they left out. And there's some deleted scenes that I've shared before. You know, The Haunted was on Animal Planet, so it was supposed to be focusing on the, you know, the actual activity that the animals saw. And we had a great piece of footage of a reaction that Jasmine the cat had. Now, the backyard footage was shown when we were doing the blessing of the house and the cats were running around like crazy, but there was an actual incident where I had seen a dark shadow person in a room, like just after the cat saw it. I was like following the cat into the room. Boom, she saw it, you know, went around to, I'm not going in there. I saw it, and then it kind of slowly dissipated. And that's just one of the stories. There's a lot of different things that happened. I talk about the actual blessing night and how, you know, the back door kept blowing open. We'd shut it and blow back open. You know, the actual EVP die was actually when Taliesin got, you know, knocked over and things like that. So, you know, that comes out, those stories come out a lot when people start asking me about that particular episode, and I get asked about that one quite a bit. Number 2, the Samuel Mudd House. This story I've told a lot in a number of different like internet radio interviews and things like that. When I was interviewed for on Fox 5 down in Washington, D.C. Last year, I talked about the Samuel Mudd House, and that's where I had a photo shoot with Prince George's Suite magazine that year. So that was kind of one of the reasons why I was telling that story. But yeah, that's I always talk about the bad impression there, and how, you know, coming in one morning that, you know, the docent was leading me up. It hadn't, you know, been closed up all night. You know, he's telling me about different things that happened in the house, and how in the bed where John Wilkes Booth had slept, that they'll go up there a lot of times in the mornings and find an impression in the bed as if somebody had been sleeping there. And sure enough, bam, it was there that morning. But there's a funny tale that goes along with that. You know, how I'd lost my pictures, and it just, even after doing the Ghosts and Legends episode, which needs to be re-released by Haunted Road Media, for the Samuel Mudd House, I've had all kinds of problems with electronic media going in there, where, you know, photos been lost, audio's been lost, just, I don't know, maybe it's paranormal, maybe it's just bad luck, but, you know, there's a lot of different things that go on there. Even the first time I was there, my daughter had something happen to her, so that is one that I talk about quite a bit. And number 1, for those that have followed me and, you know, have listened to me talk and write and all of that for years now, have probably been wondering where this one is at in the list, because you haven't heard it yet, but you're about to. And that's the Stone Lion Inn in Guthrie, Oklahoma. You know, that is, whenever I talk about this house, I talk about how it is the epitome, the absolute epitome of a haunted house. You look at it, and it's like, yeah, that's a haunted house. And just looking at a picture of it, that's a haunted house. But when you go inside, oh, there's all kinds of crazy things that happen anyway. You know, it is a house that is not silenced. You can stand there and you can hear footsteps and doors opening and just all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And I've had a lot of crazy experiences there. The one I always talk about is, you know, the white wisp and the picture of Lizzie Borden falling onto the stairs, like all within a matter of like 10 minutes happening. And I'll go ahead and just tell it right now real quick. So basically, you know, we're investigating the house. We just really kind of started our investigation. And there's the downstairs, there's one suite that you can actually stay in. It's called the parlor suite. And we were headed that way. We noticed in the front entry hall, there's a bureau there. And basically it blocks the old doors to the parlor suite. And one of the drawers had been open. We noticed it, but we were, you know, didn't really question, you know, why it was open. Just gonna walk by it. Well, as we got into the parlor suite and we started doing a little bit of suite, boom, we heard something slam from the entry hall. So we head out there and we noticed that that drawer had been shut. Of course, nobody else was there because we were all in the parlor suite. So, we go ahead. We start. I start taking pictures. Johnny got out the tri-field meter. He's taking readings, and in the picture I took at the time, there's a fantastic white wisp that's between Johnny and the bureau. Now, about 5 minutes later, after we'd taken the pictures and readings and all that stuff, we decided, well, maybe it might be best if we split up into two groups, because we were a little bit of a larger group at that time. So one group went on into the parlor suite, and a couple of us started heading upstairs. Well, I was the first one up. I'd gotten to just about the first landing. It goes up, I don't know, maybe like 20 steps or something, and then it turns, and there's like maybe another 4 or 5 that completed up to the second floor. But I'd almost gotten to that first little landing, and all of a sudden the crash. Turn around, and between myself and the next investigator that was coming up the stairs, and she'd only gone up about 2 steps, there was a framed picture that had crashed to the ground. And as it turned out, it was a picture of Lizzie Borden, of all things. And there were a number of other things that happened that night, which I've talked about before and I've written about before and all that. But Stone Lying Inn is definitely #1 of my top 11 ghost stories that I tell. Now, again, if you like this video, please go ahead and like it below. Leave some comments and feedback as to what you did like about it and what you may like to see as a top 11 in the future. We have a lot of things going on at the end of this year to get completed with Haunted Road Media. We have the 2 books that have already come out, Encounters with the Paranormal, and then my 10th anniversary edition of Deadly Airs, which is a mystery novel. But we're looking to get out My Life Amidst the Paranormal by Chaffee. That's just about complete. Trying to get it out before the new year with the holidays in the way. We'll see how that works out, but hopefully we will have that out here within the next, I guess, week and a half. It should happen. So we have those things going on. Check out the book trailers. Again, if you are a new viewer, please subscribe. And until next time.